France have been hit with yet another major injury ahead of their World Cup defense, and it's not really looking good for Le Bleu because they've now actually lost out quite a few players to injuries, but their latest one will arguably hurt the most. That is because 2022's Ballon d'Or winner Karim Benzema, the man who has been the talisman for Real Madrid in recent times, has now been ruled out of the World Cup after picking up a bit of a thigh injury that, as it turns out, was actually way worse than what most people expected it to be. As I said, not great news for France considering they were already coming into the World Cup with a few major problems, but in this video, we're going to take a look at what exactly happened, why it's such a big blow for them, and perhaps most importantly, how is it that they will go about replacing this man, Karim Benzema, in that playing 11, as well as, of course, the other injured players who they've had ruled out, who also have, some of whom are very, very big, recognized, top-class performers in their particular positions. Now, first off, why exactly is it such a big blow for France this time around? Well, because he is their main striker. Their first choice striker in recent times has been Karim Benzema, and due to that, missing him now is suddenly the worst thing that could have possibly been happening to them, because for the most part they had been playing their football with Benzema being a key part of the team, not just in terms of the squad but also the playing 11, because quite frankly everyone expected him to be the starting striker, and that was exactly how things were going. He had been starting most of their games, although he had also been alternating in some cases with Olivier Giroud, who you'd remember was part of the squad in 2018 that won the World Cup. But most people knew that Benzema was probably a better choice, but now their first choice striker has unfortunately been ruled out. And what actually makes it worse for the French national team is the fact that Benzema had in recent times been in probably the best form of his career. Having finally gotten out of the shadow of Cristiano Ronaldo at Real Madrid, he was at long last putting in the kind of performances whom many believed that he had in him, but which he'd never quite been able to show at a consistent level. But he had been doing that for the past 2 or 3 seasons. He's been playing some of the finest football of his career. He's been scoring bucket loads of goals, and he's become Real Madrid's main man, their talisman, the one who they always rely on to get them the goals, but also not just that, to also inspire and lead a team full of youngsters who are actually hoping to emulate the greatness that Benzema, Ronaldo, Modric, Cruz, Casemiro and the likes were achieving previously. The current Real Madrid team doesn't quite have all of those players. I mean, yes, Cruz and Modric are still around but aging. Thibaut Courtois, genuine world-class performer, but a lot of the players who are there, the likes of Rodrigo, Vinicius, are still young players, and they still look to someone like Benzema to be the leading man. And that was something that had actually applied even with France as well, because France, remember, World Cup winning team, suddenly, at least on paper, became so much better with the addition of Benzema to the side. Unfortunately, as it turns out, they won't really be having him. And it's not just the only fact that, of course, they'll be missing out on him. They're also going to be missing a few other major players, because France have been one of the worst hit sides when it comes to injuries. In fact, if you look at it, they've had 5 players ruled out due to injuries, and of these 5 players who are listed here, 3 of them would be sure shot starters. Now that is a major blow whichever way you want to look at it. And if you look at how you want an idea of how badly impacted France will be, besides Benzema, the other 2 players who are at the top of the list, N'Golo Kante and Paul Pogba, formed the nucleus of the midfield that actually powered France to that World Cup win all the way back in 2018. So they now don't have not just arguably one of the world's best defensive midfielders in Kante, they also don't have one of the most creative, silky midfielders in the world in Paul Pogba to count on. That is major, and considering, as I said, both of them were such key parts of the squad that won in 2018, these are big blows. But they also will be without backup goalkeeper Mike Maignan, who of course has been doing very, very well for AC Milan, was of course a Serie A winner last season, and of course he hasn't displaced Hugo Lloris just yet. But the simple fact of the matter is he's a top quality keeper and would be able to have effortlessly deputized for Lloris if need be. However, now as it turns out, they won't be able to rely with Maignan either. And Christopher Nkunku is another one who would have been a very useful option for the French team from the bench. He wouldn't have been starting most matches, but given the depth that France have when it comes to the attacking positions, it would have actually helped them significantly if they could call on someone like Nkunku off the bench. That won't be happening either. So if you're a France fan, every reason for you to be worried going into the World Cup that, hey, maybe or maybe not, we might just actually be facing a bit of an uphill task. Nevertheless, because the French team has such abundance of talent, they won't have that much of an issue actually coming up with a playing 11, and that's what I tried to do personally and see what exactly would be a playing 11 that they'd come up with all these absentees in mind. Now, if you look at the defense, it's again pretty sorted, although it is worth noting they have a few injury issues there as well. Hugo Lloris will of course be starting as the goalkeeper. Benjamin Pavard will be at right back. Remember, he scored that fantastic goal in the last edition of the tournament. At centre back too, however, they have a few missing players, because remember, Presnel Kimpembe was ruled out. Rafael Varane is with the squad but still hasn't regained full fitness, so neither of them, who would be their first choice centre backs, are going to be starting, at least for the time being. Instead, you'll have William Saliba and of course Dio Upamecano, who of course plays for Bayern Munich right now, will most likely be starting alongside Lucas Hernandez at left back. Now, that is a good defense, sure, but would have looked a lot stronger if you had the likes of Varane, Kimpembe starting in that particular backline. But what is really compromised the most is their midfield, because again, Aurelien Tchouameni, someone who's very highly rated and touted to be one of the best defensive midfielders in the world in years to come, is still very raw, and that's something Real Madrid fans can attest to. Same can be said about Eduardo Camavinga, excellent box-to-box midfielder, but is again a bit on the raw side, and this perhaps is where the absence of N'Golo Kante and Paul Pogba will be felt, because again, both of these midfielders are very, very good, have bundles of potential, but they aren't proven world-class performers the way Kante and Pogba are. Adrien Rabiot is, I think it's my estimation, it could be someone else who starts in that left centre mid position, but Rabiot has generally been someone who's of course been favoured by Deschamps, so I think he's favourite. As for the forward lines, I mean, the only major problem comes in centre forward, where you would have started Benzema, but now you'll be most likely starting Olivier Giroud, unless France decide to take a slightly left to field approach and put Mbappe as the striker and start with someone like maybe Ousmane Dembele at the left. But right now, the best option, if you ask me, would be Griezmann on the right, Mbappe on the left, and Olivier Giroud through the centre. I mean, after all, I know that Benzema has previously compared Giroud to go-karting, while Benzema has compared himself to Formula 1. The simple fact of the matter is, France were good enough to win a World Cup with the go-kart striker, so why not actually trust him? After all, he did also win a Serie A title with AC Milan very, very recently, so he still has what it takes in him to win those trophies. This for me would be the playing 11, but of course it would be a significantly compromised playing 11 without the presence of this man, Karim Benzema, but that's just how I feel. What do you guys think? Well, you can let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and tap that bell icon if you haven't already. We have loads of coverage coming for you from the FIFA World Cup, so stay tuned for all of that. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook too. Last but not least, show the wonderful folks at the AajTak app your love by downloading the app and checking out the website in English and Hindi, depending on your preference. Thank you all once again for joining us. I hope to see you with us through the day, night, and of course the following month as the World Cup action really kicks into overdrive. But for now, goodbye.